This is question 23 on the higher calculator paper. Let's read the question first. The diagram shows a pyramid and it's not drawn accurately, so I can't measure anything from it. BCDE is a square with sides length 10 centimeters. So that shape, the base of this pyramid is a square, so it's a square base pyramid, and all the sides of that square are 10 centimeters. The other faces of the pyramid are equilateral triangles with sides length 10 centimeters. So actually, again, all these edges here are 10 centimeters long. The question wants us to calculate the volume of the pyramid. Calculate the volume of the pyramid. Give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. So there's that again, significant figures, and they want us to work out the volume of the pyramid. Now just straighten this a bit. Okay. Now, what I need to do is to first of all know the formula for the volume of a pyramid. The volume of a pyramid is 1/3 times the area of the base. So 1/3 times the area of the base times it by its height. Okay, now the area of the base, it's a square base, so that's going to be 10 times 10. So the area of the base is 100 centimeters squared. I've done that, so at least I'm picking up some marks for the calculation. What I need to work out though, and this is going to be the challenge in this question, is the height of the pyramid. Now the height of the pyramid is the distance from the top to the base below. Okay, that is the height of the pyramid, and we're going to use some 3D Pythagoras to help us work this out, because if I join B and D across like so, I could see that I'm forming a right angle triangle in there. Now I'm going to call this point here, I'm going to just make it up and call it X, and I'm going to draw that triangle AXD. I'm going to draw it over here. AXD, and that's a right angle triangle. Okay, I know this distance here is 10. That's that sloping edge there, 10 centimeters. I want to work out the height. I don't know what this distance here is, but if you're familiar with this type of question, you should be able to work it out, because the base of the pyramid is a square, all of these angles in the corners are right angles. So this triangle here, BDC, that's a right angle triangle. And along BDC, I've got X halfway along it. And I know that that's 10, and that's 10. 10 centimeters, 10 centimeters. So using Pythagoras, remember I want to work out the hypotenuse. So when you want to work out hypotenuse, you square, square, add, and square root. So I'll have 10 squared, add 10 squared. 10 squared is 100. 10 squared is 100. And so I'll end up with 200. And so I need to work out BD, that's going to be the square root of 200. For my question here, I wanted just XD, and this is going to be halfway. It's going to be the midpoint of that. So what that means is that XD is going to be the square root of 200 divided by 2. Using my calculator, I can work that out. So the square root of 200, and go out to the square root sign, divided by 2 is going to be 7.07106. Now, I'm not going to write in all of those decimal places. I'm going to put 7.0711. I'm going to round it to 4 decimal places. Now, the more you have, the more accurate it would be. However, that is more than enough. Now, in my diagram here, that distance there is 7.0711. Now remember, I wanted to work out the height. Again, I'm going to use Pythagoras here. That is the hypotenuse. I already know it. So in this case here, I'm going to square, square, subtract, and square root. So I'm going to do 10 squared. I'm going to do 7.0711 squared. I'm going to subtract them. And then the answer I get to that, I'm going to square root it. So I'm going to get the calculator working on this. 10 squared, take away 7.0711 squared. That's going to equal 49.9995, and I'm going to square root that. So square root the answer, and that gives me back almost exactly what I had before, 7.071. Okay, I'm going to keep it as that. That is the height of the pyramid. So I'm almost done now because I wrote the formula down at the beginning. The volume of a pyramid is the area of the base times the height. Now the area of the base we worked out to be 100 centimeters squared. The height we've just worked out as 7.071, and timesing those together is going to give me 707.1. Now remember, the question said give the answer correct to 3 significant figures. So just as before, we're going to count 1, 2, 3 from the front, cut it off there. The next number along here is a 1. Because that's less than 5, right, I don't need to do any rounding. I just need to chop it off, get rid of the rest. So my answer is going to be 707 centimeters cubed. Okay, this is a relatively complex question. There's quite a lot happening here. However, for those of you who are aiming for top grade, you should be familiar with this. You should be able to break it down and get most of the marks here. Going on to part B. Before I go on to part B, I've just recognized that I've made a mistake on this, right? It's just on the last bit. In my haste, the volume of the pyramid, if I go back here, I wrote the formula down, right? And this is really important, especially when you're checking over your work. The volume of a pyramid is a third area of the base times the height. And I forgot to find a third of it. So I should have done 1/3 times 100 times 7.071. And I'm going to erase this because this is not the number that I need to work out. But I need to divide that by 3 in order to find a third of it. So going back to my calculator, 707.1 divided by 3 equals 235.7. Now let's just write that here, 235.7. Now this is the number I need to write to 3 significant figures, 1, 2, 3, and cut it off there. Remember that number there, it's greater than 5, well, it's 5 or more, it's 7, so that means I need to do some rounding, and so my answer is going to be 236 centimeter cubed. 236 centimeters cubed. Now, you need to be careful with these. You will have careless errors, but you need to make sure you're able to check them, you're able to find them, and to see exactly where they are in your working. Let's go on to part B here. I'm going to move this up I think I'll need to shuffle it back down again, right, because we'll need to see the diagram. The question says, find the size of angle DAB. Find the size of the angle DAB. Now, in my diagram at the top, DAB is the angle vertically at the very top of this. So I'm going to try to draw a triangle to represent DAB. Okay, so we've got D at one corner, B all the way across, and A at the top of the pyramid. A at the top, B there, and D there. And to put a point of reference, we actually said that X was going to be halfway through there, and we worked out the height. Now, one of the things that we discovered as we were working was that X to D was 7.07. That was 7.07, and the height of the triangle, or the height of the pyramid, was also 7.07. Now, that's a right angle there. What that tells us about this triangle is it is an isosceles triangle. That side is equal to that side. And because it's an isosceles triangle, that means these two angles here are equal. I'm going to write that down. There are only 2 marks for this part of the question, but I'm going to make sure that I do get them. I'm going to put the triangle AXD is isosceles. So angle DAX, this angle here, but these two angles are exactly the same. So if that's 90, that means these two add up to 90, and half of 90 is 45. So DAX is 45 degrees. This larger triangle, ABD, that's an isosceles triangle as well, because this side here is 10 centimeters, and so is this side here, that's 10 centimeters. And it's an isosceles triangle, so that means that it's symmetrical when I draw that line down. So this angle here is also 45 degrees. And therefore, what that means is angle DAB is going to be 2 times 45, 2 lots of 45, which is 90 degrees. I'll just pull this up here so you can see that. So angle DAB is 2 lots of 45, which is 90 degrees. Now, this whole question altogether is worth 6 marks, and it could be quite a time-consuming question. As long as you know your formulas and you think about it in a logical way, you should be able to get through it. However, this is one of the questions which, if you're aiming to get an A star, you need to try to get some marks from it. Think about what I've done, follow it through, think about it carefully, and make sure you can do it yourself.